But Muldoon was not a man to be trifled with. For years he had plied his trade as a big game hunter in Kenya, utilizing every scrap of his search, counting and imposing figures of run, as well as his arsenal of highly developed explosive weaponry to outsmart, outmaneuver, and out-exploit some of the mightiest and most dangerous creatures known to nature. He was normally as patient as a stone, and would spend hours, even days at a time, rooted to the spot, silently waiting for his quota to show up, so that he could decorate his lion skull cabin with more lion skulls. Nonetheless, today his patience was wearing thin. Yes, this is bloody island, he thought to himself, ever since he had accepted the job at India, working in the tourist attraction. He had effectively combined the role of construction overseer, an occupation wholly at odds with his hands-on, heads-on personality, and he couldn't deny he was beginning to feel restless. Just as he was contemplating a change of career, his self-reflection was cut off by a metallic clang as the final pylon was halted on top of the medical maximum security enclosure being erected behind him, reminding him that it had been a long time since he had been involved in erections of a more personal nature. Absently, he adjusted his crotch as he picked up his radio and signaled to the foreman that the enclosure was ready for its occupant. Hoisting himself up the solid metal gate, he looked about the large tropical forest surrounding him and began to wait for the transport cage to arrive. The forest itself was a large green farm variety normally associated with small islands located off the coast of Costa Rica, and was perfectly lit by a completely dark night sky, as if some celestial lighting assistant had in somehow. "Hola, Senora Muldoon, one of the workers called up me. I was at the hospital." Muldoon been peered at him, trying to make out who I was. "Oh, yes," he thought, and its recognition said, "That'll be young Joffrey." Joffrey was one of the few men on the isla who never really got credit for everything, just one of those men that agency or John Hammond constantly referred to as a delightfully expandable workforce. Muldoon nodded curtly to Joffrey, making sure to maintain eye contact, his first slightly younger than was socially acceptable. Joffrey smiled back coquettishly and gave him an almost effeminate wink. Wiping his mouth softly, Muldoon once more adjusted himself and went back to surveying the surrounding area, trying very hard not to think about how long it would be against him. Gave his rifle a very good cocking. After what seemed like an eternity across the platform, but what was really only a couple of seconds, give or take a second or two, a mighty roar sounded out across the acres of the big carpeted wilderness. One by one, the distant trees began to crash on the floor, as if some merciful tail behemoth was charging towards them. About bloody time, Muldoon thought to himself as the bulldozer finally emerged from the overgrowth, pushing a large steel box before it. Quickly he motioned to the other workers to help him get the enclosure open as the bulldozer pulled up to the side, and he lowered the crate with a loud thump. "All right, now," he shouted, "push is moving, loading, team move here, come on." The movement in the crate, however, had clearly angered its occupant. A mighty shriek and a series of loud, high-pitched roars emanated from the slats on the other side of the crate as the large, yellowish, distinctly non-human peered out menacingly. The creature snapped and growled and began to hurl itself against the side of the cage, startling workers who had retreated back a few steps. Now that its Muldoon reflected, this was more like an angry, dangerous animal, warning nothing more than to tear him apart. This was the kind of job he could get his teeth into, whether it was due to the previous 6 months or so of utter boredom, or whether it was some other dark, impossible one you never knew. But almost without thinking, he covertly loosened the bolts on the door of the cage, taking great care to assure no one to do so. Quickly, Geoffrey clambered on top of the cage and began to do as he was told. He knew all too well that terrible creature they were dealing with, and he did not want to waste any time getting it securely behind those 12-foot thick concrete walls lined up with high-voltage concrete fences. As he leaned forward to grab the rope to release him, the creature made a move. With a loud shriek, it threw himself against the panel next to the bolts Malden had loosened, ripping the door from its hinges and knocking the cage back, sending Geoffrey crashing into the unforgiving jungle floor below and jarring every bone in his body. Howling in triumph, the creature shot out a brown, scaly loom and sunk a vicious saber-like claw into the workman's fleshy ankle, tearing through the muscle and bone and locking itself firmly in place. Geoffrey screamed at the top of his lungs as he was dragged forcibly back inside the cage, powerless to resist the creature's superior strength. Strangely enough, though, he didn't really mind. While Geoffrey would have preferred not to die, this prehistoric Jack the Ripper was somehow the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. From her lustrous amber eyes to her graceful, prehensile tail, all the way to her muscular thighs and smooth, curvy full claws, it would be an honor to be ravaged by such a goddess. Blissfully, and with a complete disregard for his mutilated ankle and gashed open head, he reached out and smiled at the creature as she reared up and opened her jaws. By now the activity outside the cage had reached pandemonium status. Frightened workers ran around like headless compies trying to find a way to secure the cage and free their colleague. In a state of calm bliss, Muldoon strode over the radio and casually informed the Jurassic Park Control Center that they were ready for the apparatus now, and also while they were out of perhaps a few crates of strong alcohol and some women's clothing. Almost trembling with anticipation, but remaining outwardly stoic nonetheless, he loosened his belt and struck a match to light his pre-coital cigarette with it. Damn mouth. Well, now he was going to get instrumentally. Grabbing the side of the broken cage, he hauled himself up and peeked through a gap through the roof to see how they were progressing. The velociraptor had parted her jaws and looked back to strike, but suddenly she seemed to stop as if unsure of herself. Geoffrey was confused. Why had this hot Cretaceous babe molded him to make the filthy descendant of a wretch-like, true thing that he was? Why was he not being lovingly absorbed by the digestive system of this perfect carrion-scented Aphrodite? Almost if he dared not speculate, he glanced up at her, still expecting the final strike would end his sexually confused mammalian existence, and at once thought that it would not come. Her eyes were still marked by a ferocious hunger, but it was for not a shredded meat she seemed to slavor. She clearly wanted the meat intact. Geoffrey couldn't believe his luck. Slowly she backed away from him, then coyly turned around so her bird-like hips were on full display, mere inches from his face. From this angle he could see her smooth, hairless slit. As it began to drool, she started to shake her hiss from side to side seductively, delicately spraying him with gallons upon gallons of dinosaur sex pheromone she had in some gland that all velociraptors had, but they didn't get fossilized with the rest of them because it was too soft somehow. Cautiously at first, lest his arm alarm her to turn it off, Geoffrey began to lightly rub the area around her velocigina with his chin, nuzzling the rough, pebble-like folds surrounding it with his tongue. The creature howled with a terrifying primordial delight and thrust herself back inside Geoffrey's mouth, knocking out his front teeth and ramming his lower jaw deep inside her. Joffrey whispered seductively as he continued to work his magic wand with his mouth box, delicately teasing her harsh, sandpaper-like utterance as he did so. From his vantage point on top of the cage, Muldoon could see things were progressing far better than he could have hoped for. "You there," he shouted to the engineer again, who had returned with the equipment. "You get up here and set that crisp video camera up. The rest of you find some bloody tasers." The velociraptor continued to bellow and howl and echo her savage primordial joy across the construction site as Joffrey brought her halfway to the climax. With one exaggerated movement, she threw the hips violently to one side, dislodging Joffrey's lower jaw from her deep hot minge, and hammering him against the side of the cage. When he collapsed to the floor, his face a brutal-looking maze of blood, bone, flesh, dinosaurs like pheromones, and primeval vagina juices. The velociraptor was a merciless predator, but she was not a selfish lover. It was time to reciprocate. As she awkwardly batted from the cage floor, barely able to move, she approached him and lightly rested her perfect-shaped foot on his crotch. Even through his dislocated muscle, she could feel the bolt. She grinned, as all velociraptors were pretty much forced to do because of their bone structure, and with one deft flick of her curved toe claw, she tore through the lining of his pants and exposed his engorged, throbbing member. Joffrey mumbled with ecstasy through his maimed features as the creature approached. She was mildly disappointed by the lack of insemination bubble in his manhood, but she had comfort to now invested too much time to stop the process as close to completion. Wrapping her tail around his waist, she pulled him to his feet and slammed herself back against his rack-cock, moaning wildly, wickedly as it pushed apart the sides of her opening and entered her little bubbles of pleasure warmth in the red-black foam of Joffrey's mouth as she forced herself further back, taking him deep inside her. On top of the cage, the camera was nearly ready, and Muldoon could take it more, whipping off his ravaged shorts and pulling out his own very big gun. He wrapped her right hands around her and began to rhythmically jerk her off as the confused and terrified engineer pointed the camera where he was told to. "Oh, that's right. Get it all on tape. All on tape." And he groaned as he energetically pumped his purple shotgun. The velociraptor was grinding and bucking against Joffrey with terrifying savagery now, and she could feel the warmth beginning to build up in the nether regions as his rod-hard dig slammed in and out of her orifice. Fervently she rocked against the side of the cage, rolling Joffrey's impassioned, gurgling noises as she put herself closer and closer to a meteor. Let's see what she did there. Climax. "Keep shooting." Muldoon moaned as he prepared to do some shooting of his own. "Shoot her! Shoot her!" Finally, the raptor could take no more, squealing as if she intended to drown out all other sounds that have ever been made by anything in the history of ever. She came hard and fast, her vaginal walls constricting around Joffrey like a virus as wave after wave of putrid velociraptor love Tabasco skirted everywhere, dousing the floor and the walls of the cage in a layer of horribleness half an inch thick. Joffrey screamed in agony as his frail, warm-blooded member was crushed by this merciless barrage, and Joffrey tried to pull out of her, but it was too late. As a final act of climax, she spun around again, taking him with him and cracking his spine into, acting on pure instinct. She sank her powerful jaws into the side of his skull and bit down hard, ripping his head clean in half and scattering fresh blood everywhere. As her teeth entered his brain, they triggered his pleasure and pain senses, sending him at once into the most disturbingly intense agony a human can possibly experience, and bringing him to such heights of ecstasy as humankind can only dream of. Then he died. Then as she wove down what would have been once part of the greater part of the young man's head, her body was racked by more uncontrollable spasm. She writhed from top all over the cage, all movement out of her control, as the by now rallied to work as if I had taser shot after taser shot through the cage door, each one making contact with her and sending powerful electric shocks through her body, a sound not but similar to that of a former canyon gamekeeper ejaculating, emanated from the cave roof above. As she spasmed on the floor, she could feel the warm liquid trickle on her from above. "Oh, yes, that shall all be destroyed," Muldoon groaned to himself as he shot his load through the hole in the cage roof and sank happily to his knees. Though as the workers continued to shock the velociraptor into submission, a low rumbling noise was heard. "Oh, jolly good," Muldoon thought to himself. "Sounds like the others were on their way." Excitedly, he pulled his shorts back up and rallied the remaining workforce. "Come on, you lot," he declared. "One down, 7 more to go." From that day forward, working for InGen didn't seem nearly so bad.